Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so again, 30-minute presentation, nice little summary of CBD oil. 4 main questions that I like to go over in this, and that's what is CBD oil, what does it do, how does it work, and then finally, which one's the best. Although I switched the order. The first thing I like to go over is, what is it? And then what is the best. But CBD oil is a nutritional supplement that is made from something called industrial hemp. It has uses in an alternative medicine. A lot of people use it to try to get off pharmaceutical type of items, so on with that. Industrial hemp though, that is hemp that's from, of course, the cannabis family, which is, that's also where you find marijuana, which has the much higher chance of getting you high. But industrial hemp specifically has to have a lower amount of THC. So THC is that compound that gets you high. It's the part that you need to have in a low enough amount that it doesn't cause that effect. That number is 0.3%. So industrial hemp is always going to be below that. And that's what they make the CBD from. CBD is called a cannabinoid. It stands for something. It stands for cannabidiol, and there are well over 100 of those that they've found in the plant. The one they've researched the most, of course, is CBD. There are others such as CBG, CBC, CBDA, CBN, and THC. They all kind of have that 3-letter fun naming convention. It's interesting to me. And a fun fact is it was once a lot more popular. In around the early 1900s, before they prohibited hemp and all of that, they actually used this stuff. It was a common part of what people would do every day. They'd use their CBD oil and then they'd go on. Although back then I believe it had more THC in it. There weren't any regulations on that. But we actually found a picture of I really should have included it in this presentation, but we found a picture of a really old bottle of cannabis oil. And it looked just like something looked like it was from the 1800s actually, but it's very amazing to see that. Welcome, come on in. Let me get you a pen and some notes if you'd like.
Sure. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. The next thing I like to go over is which one's the best. It's better said as the different types. You'll notice that there isn't a brand in here. When it comes to finding the best one, I really like to give people the information. So if there's anything that you can take away, it would be this slide. Because as the industry goes these days, everybody is getting into it. Everybody is growing hemp and then they're extracting it. And like Jeff said, you don't know whether it was made in a commercial kitchen in a clean place or somebody just whipped it together in their bathtub. It's everywhere in between these days, and some of them aren't even what they say on the bottle, so it's another thing that you really have to go over. The first one is called isolate CBD, and just like it implies, it only has one compound. So as I've been saying in the presentation here, there's lots of them in the plant, and in isolate you only get one of those. Because of that, it'll lose its strength over time, and it doesn't have any of these. More on those in a second. It's common for it to be modified by adding flavor or making it water soluble. Adding nanotechnology is a big one these days so that it can get right into your cells, but the problem is it's not as effective. It will not help you as much for as long. And then the last part is there are no entourage effects. Now this is a really big part of CBD. All of the compounds in CBD, the different cannabinoids I mentioned, and then there's vitamins and minerals, flavonoids, terpenes, a lot of fun words like that, they work together and they become stronger when they work together than the sum of their parts. It's kind of a multiplicative effect. When you only have one, it doesn't have anything to multiply with, so it's much weaker. Broad spectrum is the next one, and this is better, although it's kind of a mix and match CBD oil. The big thing is none of them will contain THC. So without that part that gets you high, it doesn't trigger in the brain properly, and it leaves a lot of the effects you can get from it on the table. As far as getting high from CBD oil goes, you can't. Other compounds in the oil block the high effect from THC. They stop it from happening. So you can drink a whole 30 milliliter bottle. Don't. And you won't get high. You'll get the runs because it's oil, it won't sit in your stomach. It'll go right through you. Broad spectrum will lose its strength over time again. It's missing pieces. Sometimes they leave out cannabinoids, sometimes they leave out terpenes, sometimes it's clear and flavorless, sometimes it's amber colored like it's supposed to be. As I mentioned this in the last presentation, sometimes it's purple. It shouldn't be purple. We heard about that. That was an oil being sold out of Colorado. Somehow they made it purple. I'd love to know how. So yeah, it's often modified and has more entourage effects. So it's multiplying off of itself better, but it isn't the best. The third one is the best. It's called full spectrum oil. Now, full spectrum contains all naturally occurring cannabinoids. There's nothing added back in. There's nothing that's taken out. It's everything that's normally in the plant, and we find that it's most effective that way. On our website, I wrote up how, and Lighta Farms in particular does their process of growing hemp. I go through each stage. They have a 6-stage process, but one of the biggest and most important things about that process, how to grow the best hemp in the world, once you put it in the ground, don't touch it. Don't do anything to it. Let it grow on its own. And as it turns out, when you do that, it grows into really good hemp. A lot of companies like to mess with it and then do this or that. They're like, oh, we're better than nature. We can make the plant how we want it to be. It's like, good luck. It has all naturally occurring compounds, like I mentioned, the cannabinoids. It also has vitamins, minerals, omega-3s, fatty acids. It's got everything you need.
All of those are naturally occurring?
Yeah, they naturally occur in the plant. And then when we extract the oil, you can actually find traces of them in the oil that can then work with the body. It's really great. It works as a long-term solution. So we just had a woman in here who's been using it for a year, and just consistently every day for a whole year, and she's seeing more and more effects. She's doing a lot to improve her health, but the CBD has been a big component. We recommend doing that over taking it like every week and then skipping a week, because your body kind of has to charge up using it. But you can use it as long as you want, and it's non-addictive as well, so you can get off it. I mean, your pain might come back, and it has full entourage effects, so the maximum amount of playing together that the plant can do, it does in a full spectrum oil. So this is why, if you can go home with anything today, find a full spectrum oil. These are the best kind, these are the strongest kind, and oftentimes they have a better community and better testing, so you can verify that they're good, which is really important as well. So the next question that I like to address is, what does it do? This section is from 2 years ago. I did not update it because I don't have enough pages on my slides to get all the stuff that people says it does these days. This is what the list looked like 2 years ago. A little flashback for you. I have always been an advocate of learning the properties, because when you know these, it becomes really simple to understand these. And there's 6 of these and a million of those. So the first principle, biggest one, well, probably not the biggest one, but it's an important one, is non-psychoactive. There is no high. Like I mentioned, CBG in particular blocks THC from reaching the areas that make you high. It just stops it outright. And that's why you don't feel that effect. It's antioxidant, so it's modulating cell health. It's protecting them from free radicals. Immunomodulatory, it's improving immune health. Immune function is a big component of CBD oil, and it really helps to improve your immune system and help it work better. Anti-inflammatory, we believe that inflammation is really at the root of everything that's wrong with you, and if you can remove some of that inflammation, we find people are able to reach that balanced body, that homeostasis, much easier, and see an alleviation of a lot of their symptoms. And this goes outside of CBD oil. Seeing a reduction in inflammation is often what people need. A quality of life improvement, antiemetic, helps with nausea. Neuroprotective, this is another huge one. This is probably the biggest and most important group of things it helps with. That's your brain. In some cases, it has stopped degeneration of the brain. Some cases, it has slowed regeneration of the brain. And in a couple rare cases, it's actually helped the brain regenerate old function, which is huge. The brain won't normally do that on its own. Anticonvulsant. So it's helping with seizures. This was one of the ways it was introduced originally into various states. The FDA, the CBD oil that the FDA is working on is mainly for seizures and those types of syndromes. And then the last one is anxiolytic, anti-anxiety. Just about everyone who's used CBD oil has felt kind of that calming, anti-stress effect that goes along with it. So those are the main properties. You can take all of these and you can fit this whole list into those, and you can fit anything that you'll find, because if you've done a Google search, it's even crazier than it was, and everybody's saying something. Everybody's saying something and no one can make claims. So, a little bit on dosing, like you see in the picture here. You'll have a dropper, you'll fill it up, and then you put that underneath your tongue. We recommend holding for over 60 seconds. That's usually the golden amount of time. There's 3 levels. I like to talk about this just in terms of treating people with CBD. There's the micro dose, which is 0.5 milligram to 10 per day. There is the standard dose, which is 10 milligrams to 100 milligrams a day. And then the macro dose, which is 100 milligrams to 800 milligrams. To put that in perspective, this is my bottle. This has 16.6 in a serving. So this half dropper, there's 16.6 in there. I take that once a day. Some people need a little less than this whole bottle every day, which is, we've met people like that. Those are those who have like stage 4 cancers and just their life, they wake up and they start their seizures, and it happens till after they go to bed. Those, sometimes you get people who need that extreme amount. We recommend 1 serving, so half a dropper in the morning and then half a dropper in the evening. Total Health, they're experts on this. They've dealt with more customers, more clients, more patients than we ever have. They recommend using this, when you start, using this half dropper and splitting it up into 3 doses a day. I'll show a visual aid with my bottle in a second, because I am going to pass out samples, or I'll have Jeff do it. Thank you. So if you know how to use these, you can go ahead right away. Otherwise, I will explain. What you have right there is 16.6 milligrams of CBD. Same amount that I would take. We think it's a nice place to start. What you'll do is you'll take the top off, and then you can use all of that, or you can use half of it, whichever you'd like. You can just take a little bit to see how it tastes. But you'll put that underneath your tongue, and then you'll hold it there for 60 plus seconds, and some people will feel the effects of it before the presentation ends.
So now this is 1 serving?
Yes, that is basically 1 serving. You can take it as 2. The amount is that it's 16.6 milligrams. So for adults, this is where I recommend you start. Some people will use half of that a day, you know.
So you're recommending like 1 of these in the morning and 1 at night?
Mm-hmm. That's generally where we start if you use that much. Some people use a much smaller bottle, you know, and it'll be 4.3 or something like that. Okay, so you can find that much. That's 1 milliliter, so the concentration of that is equivalent to a 500 milligram bottle, and we can answer questions if you have any about those in a bit. But moving on, the endocannabinoid system. So this is where we get into kind of the science of it. I promise this doesn't take very long, but it's good to know a little bit of the background about how this works with the body, because it isn't just the CBD oil that's doing something. It's having a profound effect on your body. So the ECS system, or endocannabinoid system, it's the conductor system of the body. That's what I like to call it. It modulates your body's responses to illness or underperformance or this or that. I like to say your body knows what's wrong with you, and sometimes it's just lacking the energy to fix it. This is that system that knows what's wrong with you. Sometimes it doesn't have the energy or the available compounds to go ahead and deal with what's ailing you. So what CBD does is it charges up that system. It deals with a lot of quality of life things, like appetite, hunger, inflammation, motor control, pain, pleasure. if the endocannabinoid system's out of whack, you're probably not feeling too good. These days, I don't think it's that there is this surplus of illnesses that's coming up, but rather a surplus of people who are suffering from ECS deficiency. The three things, number 1, 2, and 3, that can cause this deficiency to happen are high stress, lack of exercise, and poor diet. And I'm sure no one has ever experienced those rare symptoms, and definitely not all three at once. You see, it's very common to have all three of those in this day and age, and that's really why I believe there's an ECS deficiency over anything. People are sick because the system isn't working, because it's connected to mainly immune problems, neurological problems, and nervous system problems. I like to throw the endocrine system in there as well. They're doing some studies that are linking ECS deficiency and endocrine deficiency. So there are things that are happening with people's thyroids and then hormone regulation and balancing that the ECS seems to have an effect on, which for some people, that nugget of information may just be the only thing they needed from this. Moving on, what happens when you take CBD? It produces these endogenous cannabinoids. The first one, the bliss molecule, is called anandamide. Ananda is bliss in Sanskrit. That is what they decided they'd call that when they discovered it. Not sure why, but sounds cool. And the other one is 2-arachidonyl glycerol. That is my favorite word in this presentation. You can abbreviate that as 2AG if you're boring, but you can spell it the fun way otherwise. These endocannabinoids, they bind to specific receptor sites in your body. CB1, they're found mostly in the brain, and then CB2 are scattered everywhere else, and that's where the CBD goes in. That's where it's received. And then these endocannabinoids come back out, and they deal with pleasure, food intake, reproduction, so on and so forth. A lot of our feel-good, quality of life things. And speaking of feeling good, it's produced in a lot of things and activities that do feel good. First of all, at the beginning of your life, breast milk contains cannabinoids, so you are receiving these even at the beginning of your life. And though I'm not advocating for this, but it is found in chocolate. So that good feeling you get when you eat a piece of chocolate, your ECS system is getting charged. Additionally, if you've ever done meditation, yoga, weightlifting, running, all of that, these are charging the system as well, so that runner's high you might feel afterwards is your system coming up, being charged, getting to work. It's not just a meaningless feeling that you feel good after that type of activity. Something's actually happening in your body. You feeling good isn't, oh, I'm just forgetting about my pain, X, Y, and Z. It's that stuff being repaired. Why Lighta Farms? So Lighta Farms is the company we represent. 2 years ago, I wanted to take my skills with teaching and educating people and, do something good with that. I used to be a martial arts teacher. Jeff mentioned that. So I was able to learn how to speak to people in crowds, and I wanted to take that and help people with something else. And I came across Lighta Farms, and I saw the work that Jeff was doing with them, and I was like, wow, I could really help educate others and work with them and teach them about CBD oil. And I really believe Lighta Farms is the best. I've done a little research. And Lighta Farms, they only offer full spectrum products. So like I mentioned in the beginning, the strongest, most powerful version of CBD oil, that's all they make. There are only 2 ingredients, hemp and MCT coconut oil. The reason for this is MCT we found is the safest way to get that into your body, and then hemp is what's in the plant, and as it turns out, you don't need to put anything else in there. Our products are all grown in the USA, in Longmont, Colorado, and that's the only place they've been before you find them at Total Health. And again, our biggest thing is helping people and educating on CBD, especially today when the amount of companies and people that are making it is just doubling every couple of months here, and it's way bigger than it was in the past. And you got to be able to find your way through that. I recommend, again, community, people who are talking about the product that you're looking at, and then COAs, certificates of authenticity done by a third party. Any CBD oil you're getting should be able to provide a certificate that says, okay, here's what's in the product. And Lighta Farms does this, and any other reputable company does this as well. And we believe that's very important. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. I'm opening this to questions now, so if you have anything that you'd like to ask, that's great. Otherwise, you can find in Lighta Farms out on the Total Health floor. Christian will be out there too. He's excellent at answering your questions. And I believe there's a little discount going on for any in Lighta Farms product if you're interested. So thank you again for coming out. Yes?
I saw on there that acne and skin problems is one of the things that it can help with. Are you applying the oil topically or is it internal?
You can definitely apply it topically. One of the interesting things is even with we have a body cream, but even with the tincture oil, you can apply that directly.
Okay.
One of the things you can do is you can take it orally, and what actually happens is it deals with the inflammation around the sebocytes that appear.
Yeah.
I actually did an article on this. The website is called wellness.com. It's in the pamphlet, but yeah, it seems to have an effect when applied directly, and then a preventative effect going forward.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Otherwise, I'm definitely available to answer questions also on the retail floor too. Like, feel free to ask me. We're not in a rush now because the other classes are done, but I'll be on the floor waiting for you at your leisure.
That reminds me. Since you're all here, I'll give you a CBD hacks session. Okay, so the first hack you can do is CBD. Like I said, the topical oil, there is body cream and you can find it out there, but you can take the oil and actually just rub that into your skin. A lot of people really think that's effective. Some people swear by it and say it's more effective. I absolutely, in order for it to be body cream, we had to put other compounds in there so that it would be a cream. Otherwise, it'd say body cream and then just be oil. So there are other things in there, but some people will do that. Another hack, this is a new one we found out. If CBD isn't working for you, you might want to check your diet. Diets that are high in sugars and carbs will prevent it from working. Additionally, if you are not sufficient on omega-3s, it will also not work as well. So if you're able to take those and then reduce sugars and carbs, you might find that CBD oil affects you even more. The final one is how to take that effect and improve it even further. We've seen CBD be up to 4 times as effective when you take it after a meal that is high in fats. So just as an example, MCT oil, just a bottle of that. If you were to have a drink or tea or a shake with that in it, drinking that before could increase the effect of the CBD you use afterwards. Let me think, are there any others? Avocados?
That's a good example.
Oh, avocados are good foods to do with that too, because they are naturally very high in fats. Never done a hack session before, but it's all the quick tips that I have that I found that make CBD stronger. Animals can take in Lighta Farms. They can take any oil that has MCT as the base. That's what's safe. If it's like olive oil or sunflower oil, they can't have that. It's no good for them. But and Lighta Farms is that MCT, so you could give this to a cat, dog, horse. You give it to a horse.
Gave it to a dog last week that was super hyperactive, like licking you like crazy. Gave it to it like half an hour later. It was just docile and just being like normal. It was pretty awesome because it's pretty annoying at first. So.
How much would you give them?
Depends on the weight.
Yeah, depends on the weight. Less than 30 pounds, you will give them 8.3 milligrams. And if it's more than 30 pounds, it's 16.6 or 25 or 50 if they're a huge dog. But those equate to the 1,000 milligram and up if they're heavier than 30, the 500 milligram and anything less if they're less than 30.
You could put it on like a biscuit or a dog food, but we just shot it right into the dog's mouth and it worked. So.
As far as anti-inflammatory, is
Yes.
that better taken internally or rubbed right onto the spot?
I actually don't know which one is better.
Okay.
I know that they're both effective, and sometimes it pays to do both.
We would recommend both.
Best is also if you rub it in deep. Like some people just lay it on the surface, you can work it in and it helps quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be on the floor if you have any other questions.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
What does MCT stand for? What is that?
Medium chain triglycerides.
Okay.
Does that help, or do you need a little more?
I I know what a triglyceride is, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Sometimes they're like, what does this stand for? And I tell them, they're like, what? All right, well, great.
Thank you,